Welcome into the Wiltfong Whip Around with Steve Wiltfong. Today's Thursday, July 11th, and I'm your host, Josh Newberg. We have a big show today. There's a lot of commitments going down, not just this weekend, but really the entire month of July and into early August, and that's what we're going to focus on in this video. We got some final predictions rolling in, but first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, so lock in, hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring in the great Steve Wiltfong, and we are going to start with some July commitment dates because not only are there big commitments this weekend, but all throughout the month of July that are going to shape really the top 10, the top 20 of the ranking. So let's kick it off with this weekend, and there is a theme this weekend. Wide receivers coming off the board. Travis Smith out of the Atlanta area is going to be set to commit on July 13th. What's the buzz there?
Tennessee is a program that's been picking up the buzz this summer. One of their top overall targets, regardless of position, Coach Pope, Coach Hazel, Coach Heupel and company have made him feel very comfortable with his fit in the offense, what a priority is. He's been to Knoxville in April, came back for his official visit in June, and Tennessee is the program trending for the top 100 pass catcher.
All right, Derek Meadows is also going to be on Saturday. He's one of the trio of wide receivers making his decision. Now, Derek Meadows, is there any way that Alabama can sneak him away from Notre Dame, from Michigan, from some of these teams that have been really entrenched in his recruitment, but the Tide are making a run late?
LSU is the program that's making this run real late. Alabama's kind of come on in the last month. Notre Dame was the longtime favorite for Derek Meadows. And they had from what I understand, they had a great conversation with Derek Meadows and his family on Tuesday night as they try and close this thing. But the SEC programs, Alabama and LSU, have been surging in this recruitment. So that's one that could still go a few different ways, in my opinion, as they continue to have final dialogue with these coaching staffs. A source close to Meadows told me that LSU was surging. So that indicated to me that maybe they were in pole position here as the week started. I think some folks around Baton Rouge were feeling good about it, but Alabama's been a mainstay in this one. Notre Dame's been in it as long as possible, one of their top targets, regardless of position. And it'll be interesting to see if what Meadows does maybe impacts Travis Smith. You know, Travis Smith had a great visit to Alabama. Alabama's one of his finalists. Alabama's trying to close Caleb Cunningham. They're trying to close Derek Meadows. They're in it for Kalika Lockett. LSU, they missed out on C.J. Wiley. They're battling for Jamie French, but they've poured a lot into Derek Meadows and Notre Dame. Derek Meadows is one of the guys they targeted as we have to have in this class as they try and work their way back into the top five.
All right. Now, would you take Notre Dame or the field when it comes to wide receiver Derek Meadows right now?
Ooh. Yesterday, I would have took the field, but talked to a source Wednesday morning. We're recording on Wednesday for Thursday's show. I think Notre Dame, there's some optimism back around Notre Dame that it was a good conversation and it was left in a good place. This is one that's pretty tight here, Josh, as we try and as the Meadows family tries to get this thing figured out going into Saturday.
All right. Now we're moving on to wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon. This is kind of shaping up to be an East Coast, West Coast battle. You got Florida State, USC, also Texas, Ohio State involved as well. But seems like it's coming down to either the Trojans or the Seminoles right here.
Agree with that. There's been a lot of buzz around Florida State. Florida State's got the number 10 class in the country, looking to stay in that top 10 with guys like Dalen McCutcheon, top 100 player in America. But as his decision draws near and he starts to dot I's and cross T's, I think Lincoln Riley and USC and the time he spent out there at Southern Cal is also enticing for him. So Florida State, you like where they're positioned, USC trying to flip that script.
And then on Sunday, we have a big one right here on the On3 Recruits channel, which is why you need to be subscribed. We got Rashad Johnson out of the state of Florida, South Sumter, Florida, right in the middle of the state. He's going to be making his commitment on July 14th. Steve, where do you think the safety is going to end up?
On 3 RPM is on Georgia. Still feeling great about the Bulldogs as Kirby Smart and his staff try and push for the number one class. Rashad is a guy that they've identified as a top target. They'd love to get him in the fold, and I think they will.
All right, then we're going just a couple days later. A big, much anticipated commitment from DJ Pickett, the 5-star from Zephyr Hills, Florida, is going to make his decision on July 17th, and it seems like Oregon's trending here.
Well, when we first talked about his decision date on either the Inside Scoop or Whip Around, we talked so much I always forget the show, Josh. It was 2 weeks out when he put the decision date. And I
Yep.
said, Josh, is 2 weeks a short amount of time or a long time? And we both then said in unison, a long time. And Miami, talked to a source yesterday, Tuesday. Miami, don't sleep on the Hurricanes there for DJ Pickett. The Hurricanes are, and we've always had them in the back of the sentence or the back of our mind for DJ Pickett, like, oh, we like LSU, but don't sleep on Miami, or Miami has a great year, or we
Mm-hmm.
like Oregon, but Miami's in the top two. By decision day, don't be surprised if Miami's number one. Oregon's going to have their hands full with the Hurricanes. LSU still trying to battle. But Miami, as they push for another top five class, as they try to get to those heights, they need DJ Pickett. And there's some good Miami smoke as I talked to you this morning.
All right, Kane's surging for one of the best DBs, not only in the state of Florida, but in the entire country. Speaking of top DBs, Jabari Antoine put himself back on the market. The former LSU commitment decommitted about 4 or 5 weeks ago now and has now set a new commitment date on July 20th. Jabari Antoine is going to make his next decision. Steve, what do you see here?
Had great experiences at Miami and Florida State with his official visits in June. Decommitted from LSU. You never rule out the Tigers getting an in-state prospect back in the fold, but the Hurricanes and Seminoles certainly gave him a lot to think about.
Yeah. And then another big one, just one day later, Vernell Brown III, right here on the On3 Recruits channel. That's why you got to be subscribed, is going to make his decision. Will it be Florida, Florida State, Miami, or can Ohio State pull him out of the state of Florida?
In the spring, I thought the Buckeyes were the team to beat for Vernell Brown III, but as he continued through his process, the two-time Gators legacy recruit, I just think picturing himself in the swamp playing for Florida is how he always envisioned his college career going. And I like where Florida stands right now, heavy for Vernell Brown III. If they're able to add him to Joshua Moore, that's quite a receiver duo as they try and get more potent on offense with playmakers like Brown and Moore.
Yeah, that'd be huge. All right, you guys, let me know who's going to capitalize on some of these July commitments. What team is going to make the most of it? Let us know. Comment section below. All right, Steve, let's talk some buzz on some more top targets. Now, the next group of targets we're going to talk about, these guys are either committing in August or do not have decision dates set, but there is some rumors that it could happen soon. So let's start with at the top with offensive tackle David Sanders. He just made some big news this week, cutting his list down and setting a date. Tell us about it.
Well, we've been talking about David Sanders a lot, and I've been giving the inch to Ohio State in this recruitment coming out of his official visit June 21st, but he's still going through his process, working towards a decision. Nothing has been decided at this point, and would not be surprised if he took some visits in July to see some of his finalists one more time before making his decision in August, early in his senior season. So Tennessee and Ohio State have been the two programs that we have marked as the top contenders. But there's been a time where I thought Georgia has led. He's always had Georgia amongst his leaders. And then here's Nebraska, a program that wasn't even in his original top six, gets a Mother's Day weekend official visit. Now they're in the Final Four. And again, inch to Ohio State, certainly not sleeping on the Vols. We'll see what happens with Georgia and Nebraska over the last month of David Sanders' recruitment as he looks to find a place that can develop him as a player, a place that gives him an opportunity to be successful in the sports medicine, eventually be an orthopedic surgeon realm, and then just a place where he feels like he can fit in with the players and recruits. So those are kind of the boxes you have to check, and I like where Ohio State stands as I talk to you right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's more surprising to me. The fact that here we're talking about his final teams about a month before his decision and Clemson's not in it, or the fact that Nebraska worked all the way into that final group, and we'll see what happens in the end here. So
but we've kind of put Clemson in the back for a while.
yeah.
So that wasn't going to end up being the right fit. Sometimes you grow up rooting for a program, but then when you go through this process and the things that you're looking for from a school, Clemson obviously didn't touch all those boxes.
All right. Speaking of twists and turns, Jonah Williams, the 5-star safety out of the state of Texas, his recruitment's had some twists and turns, and right now it looks like it's headed toward Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah, talking to sources yesterday, I continue to feel like Oregon is a program that is really trending with Jonah Williams. I think that Texas A&M's that in-state program right now. It'll be interesting to see what kind of moves they try and make as Oregon has the momentum in this recruitment for Jonah Williams.
All right. Now let's talk about defensive lineman. 5-star defensive lineman, Elijah Griffin. Is there anybody out there that has a chance to swipe him from Georgia?
Well, I know he's had a good time at USC, and then Miami and other programs have done a good job of
Mm-hmm.
being exciting for him. But I think Georgia leads distant second, whoever you want to put in second place. So really like the way that's setting up for Georgia right now. But again, he's not taking anything for granted. He's going through his checks and balances on the recruiting trail. So we'll see what the fall brings. But Bulldogs look like the heavy favorites.
Up next, offensive tackle Ty Haywood out of the state of Texas. His recruitment seems like it's been heating up, but he has not set a decision date. Steve, what are we hearing in terms of when he could decide and who the finalists could be?
Well, I think he's in the process of trying to make his final decision right now and still lean heavily towards Alabama. Florida State is the dark horse in that recruitment. Oklahoma and Texas A&M seem to have faded. He's also shown some interest in UCLA, but Alabama has the momentum for one of the most coveted offensive linemen in the country.
Yeah, that would be another huge addition for the Tide. Speaking of big additions, they also hosted defensive lineman Justice Terry on an official visit the day after he decommitted from USC. Now, Justice Terry also being heavily pursued by Georgia, but do you think this could be a battle that Alabama can win?
No, I think it's a long road uphill for a lot of these other programs as they recruit against Georgia for Justice Terry. I think similar to Elijah Griffin, I think the Bulldogs are going to be tough to beat. Again, he's going through his process and continuing to have dialogue with other schools. We saw USC make a big move with him at one point, but I think Georgia is the heavy favorite for Justice Terry.
Man, that could be a historically good defensive line class for Georgia if these pieces fall into place. All right. Let's go back out to the state of Texas. Offensive tackle Michael Fasusi. Now, we've been talking about Michael Fasusi and the Longhorns since his sophomore year, and they've always kind of been the favorite, but no commitment. Is this another case where we kind of see Michael Fasusi slip from the grasp of Texas, similarly how DeCorian Moore did?
Well, it's possible. I would give the inch or two to Texas right now, but as other offensive linemen come off the board, Lamont Rogers, whereas Oklahoma and Texas A&M see that they're not getting Ty Haywood. I think that makes the recruitment more interesting for Michael Fasusi as these programs come down the stretch for him and they make their final pitches to Michael Fasusi. We'll see if one of those things can change the trajectory of this recruitment late in his process.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about wide receiver Jamie French. Since we're talking about the Texas Longhorns, this is now the focus. DeCorian Moore ends up in Oregon. Khalil Lockett, hey, he's not a lock to stay in the state of Texas either. So let's turn our attention to Jamie French. What are you hearing?
I like Texas going into another round of visits, but this is a recruitment that's had a lot of changes. A former Alabama commit, Ohio State led at one point. We like Texas going into the official visits. We think LSU has made a charge. We think Miami has made a charge. Expect them to visit all three again in July before making his final decision.
All right, another wide receiver that there's some smoke around is Caleb Cunningham. Could Caleb Cunningham, the 5-star wide receiver out of the state of Mississippi, be coming down to a decision soon?
Yeah, I think he's one of the next elite players to come off the board and love the on-3 RPM in favor of Alabama right now. They took control of that recruitment during his official visit. He loved being around the staff, loves the way that Coach Jamarcus Shepard develops receivers, and loves Kalen DeBoer's track record. I think Alabama is the clear favorite. Wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the next in the fold for that staff.
Unbelievable summer for the Tide. All right, edge Bryce Davis. He's out of Greensboro, North Carolina, and there are some new RPMs rolling in. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Chad Simmons and I combining our intel, and we like Clemson now for Bryce Davis. Georgia was one that we thought led in the spring going into the summer, but that official visit to Clemson the weekend of May 31st, just the genuine authenticity of Dabo Swinney and how they treat their players and the families of the players really resonated with Bryce Davis and his family, and what they've been able to do historically around the line of scrimmage on defense is another thing that Clemson has excited the family about. I think Bryce Davis is going to end up playing for Clemson on the next level.
All right, guys, let me know. How do you guys feel about that 5-star intel? Let me know. Comment section below. So many guys coming off the board soon. Let us know what you're thinking. All right, Steve, let's talk Florida State recruiting. FSU's got some targets coming off the board soon, and they're a program. I wouldn't say they're hot on the recruiting trail, but they are getting hot. They got some guys making decisions that could vault them even more into that top 10 right now, hanging right around that 10 spot. They need to get a couple more commitments to combat some of the other guys going to other schools. So let's take a look. This weekend, Florida State has wide receiver Dalen McCutcheon making a final decision. It looks like it's coming down to FSU or USC. Ohio State and Texas are also involved, but why do you think Florida State has a good shot here at Dalen McCutcheon?
Well, he's just got a really good relationship with Coach Dugans, loves the offense, loves the season that Florida State just had, and always feels comfortable when he's in Tallahassee. As you said, USC making it interesting late. Florida State's got to get it to the finish line, but they're one of the major players for the top 100 receiver from Texas.
All right, speaking of the finish line, we can finally see it for Kalik Lockett. He set a decision August 7, and I think it could be on this channel. I got to call him later today and set that up. But Kalik Lockett, five-star wide receiver out of the state of Texas. It's Texas. It's Texas A&M. It's LSU, and it's FSU, maybe Alabama as well. August 7, what do you think, as we're about 3 weeks out from that decision?
I think that Texas and Alabama are the programs that have the advantage over his other finalists. So if you're talking about his interest in Florida State specifically, he's had 2 great visits to Tallahassee this calendar year. Loves the vibe, loves the way he feels when he's around that Florida State program, what they've done historically at wide receiver, what the current staff's doing. But they got some ground to make up on Texas and Alabama, in my opinion.
All right, Jabari Antoine. He was all LSU until he wasn't. He decommitted about 3 or 4 weeks ago from the Tigers, and on July 20th, he's going to make a final decision. Now, LSU's still involved, but did FSU do enough to become the favorite heading into this July 20th date?
Well, I sense that there is some confidence around Tallahassee with their position with Jabari as he's locked in his decision date. Coach Pat Surtain, what he's done historically as a player, I think excites him, and he likes being around Coach Surtain, Coach Fuller, and that coaching staff. And again, Florida State having the year they had last year, including beating LSU to start the season. I think those are all exciting things for Jabari as he nears his college decision. But Miami and LSU, 2 other programs that are definitely in the thick of it.
All right, and then 5-star offensive tackle or interior offensive lineman, but FSU's recruiting him as a tackle, so we'll call him a tackle, Josh Petty. He is going to make a summer decision. We don't exactly know when he's going to make a summer decision, but he is. Florida State, kind of the perceived leader here for a while, but this is almost one of those where they've been the leader for so long. Is it going to come and bite them at the end? Can Tennessee or Ohio State kind of swipe Josh Petty right at the finish line?
Georgia Tech and Stanford look like a couple big challengers for Josh Petty as well, but the on-3 RPM is on Florida State. His sister goes to school in Tallahassee. On his official visit, he was able to eat lunch with her, go to dinner with her, spend a lot of time with her. It's an extremely close family. I think that's one major thing Florida State has going in their favor. And then in addition to that, Coach Alex Atkins, that relationship, the way he treats his offensive linemen, that's something that's exciting to Josh Petty too. Florida State's style of play, the conference they're in, those are all things that I think have put Florida State in good position as they try and hold off a Georgia Tech or a Stanford, Ohio State, and Tennessee being some of the dark horses.
All right, now Florida State is looking for another elite edge to pair with Javian Hilson. Now they have their eyes set on Jared Smith. They've already lost out on one prime target from the state of Alabama in Zion Grady to Ohio State. Can they go into Hoover, Alabama, and pull the 6'6", 235-pound edge, Jared Smith, when he's ready to make his decision on August 3rd?
They can. The on-3 RPM's on South Carolina right now, but when you talk about some of the other schools that are closer to the top of the list, sounds like Florida State is one of them that he's also seriously considering.
All right, let's talk a little bit more FSU intel. The next couple guys don't necessarily have dates defined for their decisions, but FSU heavily involved here. And we're talking linebacker Ty Jackson. The Noles need linebackers. They miss out on Tavian Wallace, Gavin Nix. Now Ty Jackson seems like he could be up next in terms of a decision, but it likely won't come till fall.
Now, Ty Jackson, I think he's going to be one of the guys announcing on the day of the signing period.
Okay.
I mean, he's going to go to the end. And he has his official visit for Florida State set for the last regular season the last weekend before the early signing period. He's going to be at the Florida game in Tallahassee. He might be at Florida State again at the end of this month when prospects go back on the road. Florida State is definitely one of the leading contenders for Ty Jackson. His mom went to school there. They feel very comfortable around the coaching staff. They got their hands full with places like Alabama, Florida. The Gators are another major contender. He took officials to Georgia and Penn State. But Florida State is definitely one of the favorites for Ty Jackson.
All right, let's wrap it up with a little running back talk. Two backs that we talk a lot about on this channel when it comes to Florida State is Usman Kroma and Byron Lewis. Which back right now would you put pencil into FSU's class out of these two?
I think confidence is rising again with Kroma in Florida State. This is a guy that they've coveted, one of the top players on their board, regardless of position, the entire cycle. Auburn, Georgia, some of the other schools that we've mentioned with Kroma. But I think that Florida State is definitely one of the front runners for him as he heads into the heart of summer. My on-3 RPM is on Florida State for Byron Lewis, but Miami is a program that cannot be ignored in that one. Talking to my colleague Chad Simmons this morning, wouldn't be surprised if Byron visited both again in July. He doesn't look like he's in a hurry to decide, so we'll see what happens there.
All right, FSU fans, let us know. Comment section below. Is FSU going to get hot to end the summer? Let us know what you think. Comment section below. All right, let's talk some Tennessee volunteer recruiting. And as Tennessee sits right now, they are 16th in the On3 industry rankings. That doesn't seem right. Tennessee's got to make a run. We know that. And there's some big guys making decisions this weekend. Let's preview a couple decisions that are going to happen in the month of July. Now, Travis Smith, the wide receiver out of the Atlanta, Georgia area, he is going to be set to decide on Saturday, and picks have been rolling in for Tennessee. Steve, what are you hearing on Travis Smith and the Vols?
Unless something were to change with an Alabama or a Georgia at this point, really like the way it's setting up for Tennessee. They've absolutely coveted him. He's taken several visits to campus, including in the spring. Then his official visit in June, likes the offense. Coach Pope, Coach Halsey, Coach Heupel, they've all done a really good job of recruiting him, and I think he's going to be a Vol as I talked to you this morning.
All right. Now let's move on down the calendar a little bit where Laganza Shady Hayward is set to decide on July 27th. This has kind of been a UGA Tennessee battle. Florida Gators also involved. Can Tennessee seal this up on July 27th?
I think so. Yeah, I've logged an early on-3 RPM in favor of Tennessee. And then there's been some waves after that. The official visit to Georgia sounded like he was a heavy Georgia lean. The Florida official visit, he said, made his decision 10 times harder. But getting back to Tennessee the weekend of June 21st, they were the program to prioritize him first. They've poured into this recruitment, and I like the way that it's shaping up for Tennessee for Laganza Hayward. He feels very comfortable around the coaching staff. And that last official visit makes me feel better about my RPM. Talking to him this week, I feel like Tennessee is still the program to beat. It's up to Florida, Georgia to kind of change that over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and
next week.
We'll see if they can. Big rivalry battle shaping up between Georgia and Tennessee over linebacker Christian Gass. I don't have a decision date on him, but maybe you're hearing when he could decide. And also, which way would you go right now, Georgia or Tennessee?
Yeah, he's coming off the board later this month, and Tennessee is a program that's had a lot of smoke around them here early in the summer. But this is a guy that Kirby Smart and the Georgia staff absolutely covet. So the Vols are going to have to battle the Bulldogs all the way to the decision date to pull one of the most coveted second-level defenders out of the Peach State and away from Kirby Smart.
All right. Now, speaking of Georgia-Tennessee battles, linebacker Jaden Perlotti is also expected to flip from Georgia. We've seen the experts putting the predictions in, but when do you think this could happen?
Yeah, Chad Simmons has an on-3 RPM prediction in favor of Tennessee to flip Jaden Perlotti from Georgia. We know our guy Chad, he doesn't miss very often. There's certainly been a lot of smoke there. I've talked to some sources that feel like Tennessee is a team trending there. But I think around Athens, I think Jaden Perlotti and his family continue to say the right things about their status with Georgia. We've seen this before, potential flip to Florida State, potential flip to Auburn. Now it's Tennessee right now. Can Georgia put out another fire? Time will tell.
Yeah, and then you got offensive tackle Josh Petty. He's going to make a summer decision. We don't know if it's going to come at the end of July, early August, but we do feel confident it's going to be this summer. Can Tennessee upset FSU for five-star offensive lineman Josh Petty?
Yeah, I think that they're one of the dark horses alongside Ohio State. Florida State's the RPM pick. Georgia Tech, Stanford are good fits for Josh Petty as well. But there's Tennessee fans in the Petty household, and he's grown up around that program in Knoxville. Likes Coach Ellerby and that coaching staff. So we'll see. I wouldn't put him in Tennessee's class just yet, but they're on
Mm-hmm.
the short list.
All right. I mentioned at the top of this show that Tennessee's sitting in 16 right now. What do you make of where they stand, and what do you think they still need to finish out this class?
Well, when you look at this Tennessee class, Josh, they obviously went out and landed the quarterback that they wanted in George McIntyre, the guy that can come in and push that room as a true freshman, early enrollee in December. They got one of the highest upside defensive linemen in the country, Marion Dye, a first off the bus type prospect from the Hoosier State. Douglas Utu was a big recruiting win out of national champion Bishop Gorman. You're talking about beating Alabama, Ohio State, and Oregon, among others, for Utu. And probably one of my favorite players in this class right now is Radarius Jackson, a receiver from Memphis, Tennessee, a do-everything type player on the prep level, a touchdown waiting to happen. I think he's someone that could come in and be dynamic on day one for the Vols. Jaden Lofton's a nice edge rusher pickup that they have, a guy that I really like the way Tennessee's recruited since Heupel's been there around the line of scrimmage on defense. And I think Jaden Lofton has the traits to come into the SEC and be one of the better players on the edge at the point of attack. Moving forward, look, they're looking for guys in the secondary. Lagonza Shady Hayward would be a big pickup. Another playmaker, wide receiver, Travis Smith, is certainly a major target for them. And then Christian Gass. There might not be a player higher on the board right now for Tennessee as they try and finish this thing up outside of David Sanders, right? The number one offensive tackle
Yeah, you saved it.
in the country. He is the guy that the franchise piece out there. They have their franchise quarterback. They would like to get their franchise tackle, left tackle in David Sanders. They're in the top two, in my opinion, for him. If they're able to land him, the class is a success, in my opinion, with what they already have in the fold. And then we'll see what happens with those other guys.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Tennessee fans, what do you think? I know you're sitting at 16 right now, but this is most likely going to be a top 10 class. The question is, how deep into the top 10? Let us know where this class finishes. Comment section below.